Welcome back to Week 6 of the PCS Spring Split 2022. I'm still Pyra, he's still Clement. After that first game, we still got 4 more to play. But before we get into that one, I do want to talk about our wonderful sponsors. Thank you so much, CTBC Bank, and of course, Caliber, for making the PCS possible. But, Clement, speaking of CTBC Bank, apart from being Taiwan's top financial institution, they've also got a pretty darn good League of Legends team. And they're facing off against Meta Falcon team right now. Big playoff implications for both these squads, though, despite different places in the standings.
Yeah, so far CTBC has had a really rough week 3 and week 4, week 5. Excuse me, we're already on week 6 right now. But they had a big wake-up win against PSG, and the way they did it was really interesting because they basically copied MFT's strategy. They went with the Camille and Galio composition, which just happens to be Wen and 665's bread and butter composition. So we have the two most prolific Galio players going head-to-head on the Rift. And going back to a little bit more about CTBC here, I think they realized their weakness in terms of team coordination. They are not a team that really habitually plays around their AD carry. They had Atlan before. They're probably sticking with Shun throughout, I would expect, playoffs. And they realized that it's probably too late in the season to kind of reorient themselves. So what they did against PSG is they played strong lanes. They played a super strong engaged composition. You cannot run away from Hextech Ultimatum into the Galio Ultimate, just the cannonball composition. And there were only one of two teams that were able to shock and awe PSG with that early game strategy.
Of course, this is also the team that lost to the other squad that was able to do it, Beyond Gaming, in the same week. So it's interesting to see where the chips are going to fall here on the playoffs. But for this squad, I think you're absolutely right. It seems that Shun is the guy, and it's just because what he brings is better for CFO's strategy of just trying to either snowball off the lanes or find the hardest of engages. But it is really interesting because their opponents have also executed this big old wombo of a combo we saw in one of their first matchups. They were able to pull this off. This is the University squad coming together, or staying together, I should say, and found that hard-earned team coordination had paid off. But they are Taco, 665, Wen, Whale, and now Renhao, of course, has been the more primary support here for a little while now, as opposed to Epic. So they've kind of made their more permanent swap as well, it seems.
Yeah, what we've seen from this squad is when they're given the choice, they do like their sort of Renekton Diana comps. They do like their Galio Camille comps coming in from Taco. And, I think currently at this stage in the game, what MFT bring to the table is just that surprise factor, especially from Taco and the amount of champions that could throw at you. Another big point is, of course, their primary carries, which are going to be coming from the bot lane. Very similar in the damage numbers. But we do have a big champion that has surged recently, the Zaya coming out from Shun. He's currently 20 KDA on that champion, has won all of his lanes with it. So that is going to be a big one to look out for. And, sometimes even though CFO haven't come out with the wins itself, they have always come out consistently with Shun's lane, which you can tell by his plus 1,000 gold difference at 15.
Yeah, only across 3 games, but he's got plenty of time to add more to that one right now. I think Shun has definitely lived up to his debut. We saw him really kind of styling in his first game, but it was against one of the weaker sides, and then ever since, he's kind of proved it against the best of the best. So Whale has got a job for himself this time around to survive and to try and answer back, but he is certainly no slouch. As we get into the picks and bans, we see CFO targeting out some of the favored champions for those combo pieces on the MFT side. The Diana's off the board, of course. The Tryndamere, pretty worthy ban in most situations. In MFT, they're not going to try their luck to counter a Zeri. Not against Shun. They're going to ban that away.
Yeah, MFT have not been one of the teams that have shown to take a dice roll on the Zeri pick. A lot of times they will ban the Zeri themselves on the blue side. And talking about this squad, even though there is a 4-win difference, MFT are actually 6th place, while CFO are 5th place. So there is a bit of a huge, I wouldn't call it a trench necessarily, but there is kind of a ditch in between,
it's a stretch standings though too, right? Because CFO do have a tie, with Beyond as well. But no, you're not wrong. Like MFT, of course, they're very, very close despite the win differential. This is where it kind of cuts off a little bit, and that's why, it's impossible for MFT to necessarily catch up to CFO because there's too many games different. it still means a lot for both of these teams in their prospective chases. MFT would love to get that 6th seed in their first split and dodge a loser's bracket start to the playoffs. As we have a Jinx span here, even on the Nurse in 12.5. Interesting.
Yeah, this is super unique here because CFO have shown a propensity to not really go for 80 first picks. So they're perfectly happy to let the enemy pick whatever they want, and then they still have the Xayah open. They're not fixated on the big 3 coming into the draft, the Jinx, Aphelios, and the Xerxes that we've seen. So it's kind of interesting. We haven't really seen anyone try to ban this way. And now the big question is, what will 665 play? Recently, he's just been all Hecarim most of the time. And with both Diana and Hecarim off, he needs to play some early game champion and face the music in Gemini's best champion in the Lee Sin here. So it's interesting what they have. And in the meantime, if you leave Galio open, Wen is 100% locking it in.
Yeah, also they're going to get that Graves pickup here, which I believe that is, I mean, it is a flex pick, but I'm looking at the champions played, and Taco, he really stacks the board with them. This is not, well, it is one of them actually. He did play a Graves in a single game, and he's the only one to do it. 665 has not. So I'm inclined to think this is topside, but it's always possible. And then, of course, we do see the Xayah on second rotation for Xun. Will they round it out with the Rakan and avoid it being banned away? It's always possible. Mission, of course, he himself could get banned out a little bit. He does love this Orianna. Both sides of this matchup, really. He locks
this is just too easy for CFO. They see the Galio. They know it's a cannonball composition. They don't even have to see any more picks. They're just going for full disengage. You have Dragon's Rage that disengage. You have Shockwave that counter engages. And you have the hardest champion to catch in the bot lane from Xayah. So I think CFO understand their win conditions very well, and it's for MFT to see whether they want to go in with range coming in from the bottom side themselves, which they do go for double AD composition, or if they go for full catch. And I think this is really smart. If you see this composition from CFO, you don't really want to walk into it. You would much rather keep your distance, and Tristana is one of those picks that could do it late game.
Yeah, we're going to see 2 Tristana games in a row here. I'm curious to see if Whale can match up against Xun. Into the second bans we go, though. A few seconds down the line, of course, the Rakan has to be considered. Not necessarily because of Koala, but because of that extra range, because of the engage potential it offers, and because of the very aggressive ball delivery system that it represents in this squad. CFO already have a lot of tools for a pretty beastly team fight, and we'll see what their answer is.
I love what MFT are doing here. They're making sure that CFO can engage. Now, if you look at CFO's composition, if you can't engage, then a lot of your ultimates don't really do anything when you get outranged here. So very smart composition. If Taco could play something like a Jace here, it would just fill in the composition beautifully. Taco could play anything. Like, I wouldn't be surprised to see him do anything. He is the man with the most.
A Victor top. I mean, like, yeah, this guy is a champion Ocean. Debatable if it's necessarily gonna work.
Yep.
But I mean, Taco looks pretty good and comfortable on some of these very strange things. Just a quick gander at his champion picks this season. He's got a Darius, he's got a Mordekaiser. He opened the split with an Akali that won. A couple Silas games up top. The Victor. He does it all, man.
Yeah, this guy's just absolutely crazy. We've even had things like the Zillion top lane. So just find a ranged champion that can kind of play towards those strengths is definitely something that CFO could do here. MFT could do here. And interestingly enough, CFO actually banned away the Leona here as well. They're a little bit afraid of the one-shot combo that Leona plus Tristana would provide, but that also means that if the Nautilus is taken away, CFO don't have good engage options.
Yeah, that is curious right now. It does feel like MFT have kind of came a little bit prepared for what their opponents want to play, but we'll see if they can find a way to squeeze a little bit of extra engage on that one, or if they can't get stiff-armed away from the likes of Meta Falcon team. 2 more picks to go. We'll finally see, is Koala going to take a leaf out of Kino's book? I think it might be the case, Clement. We got ourselves a set.
Oh, and this one's super fun because the one member they can't get away is the Galio. And you can just suplex him into the back line. That's going to do plenty of damage right there. I do like this sort of counter pick. We have seen it work out against Galio comps quite well. You just kind of run at him, throw him in. He's not really able to escape. But in the meantime, I still feel like this composition is not particularly consistent. And I think for CFO, they're actually very reliant on their early game lanes to work out for these champions like the Set and the Renekton to carry through into the later phases of the game. These are champions that where if their early game gets stunted, they really lack the power to stand up to most champions come later in the game. And as we look at the top lane, you know, there still could be something like a Gwen coming up here. Like, oh, sorry, Gwen's been taken away. My bad. Oh, we are going to get an Ornn. Wow.
Okay.
Super interesting.
By the way, that's a new one for Taco, so count them right now.
Yeah, I do want to talk about this Ornn because
13 unique champions.
Oh boy. It's just so crazy that Taco's actually going to win that award away. Like, usually when we see rookie players coming on the Rift, they play 3 or 4 champions, and that's it. They're very risk-averse, but Taco's just willing to try everything. So,
dude, this Taco's got everything on it. I'm excited. But you're right about CFO. They're indexing so heavily here on their ability to snowball ahead. I mean, they should be confident in that ability, but it feels like it is a huge gamble. And even if they do come out ahead and snowball 1 or 2 champions, they're also heavily reliant on AD. Mission's the only one who really puts out a significant amount of magic damage in this team comp.
Yeah, and honestly, Orianna isn't one that doesn't really have the sustained damage throughout an entire team fight either. If you whiff the ultimate, then that's pretty much a pure AD composition. So in terms of the scaling, it's definitely on the side of MFT. And in some of these lanes, Ornn actually historically has a very good win rate against Renekton as well. It's actually pretty difficult to bully an Ornn even in lane. You can push the wave, you can get wave manipulation, but it's actually incredibly difficult to punish him in terms of CS or even just taking him down low. So I love what MFT did with their composition. They kind of signaled one way, did a head fake, and forced CFO into a bit of a weird position. Now, to get back to basics and to get back to the big picture, though, I still think CFO are still massively favorites. They are the most preeminent laning phase kingdom team that we have in the PCS, and this is a laning phase composition. So, you know, if I'm being completely honest, they should still feel fairly comfortable with this composition, but MFT have given themselves far more outs than I would have expected.
Yeah, really interesting draft coming out from the Uni Squad representing today. Let's see if they can get a win. This would be massive for their playoff chances. The best they can hope for is a 6th place spot. A number 6 seed, though, would allow them to dodge being placed in the lower bracket for round 1 of the playoffs. At the very least, they would end up in a 7th or 8th place spot. But this is the toughest game they're liable to have so far. I mean, they do face off against, I believe, Beyond Gaming, so that, you know, debatable there. But also, they're going to be playing their opponent's Hurricane a little bit later. So, yeah, I think this is a good shot for them. I mean, it's not going to be easy. Never is against the Flying Oyster, but we'll have to see how it shakes out. Little early level 1 trades. When walks out of the command attack.
And so far, MFT's position is that they are in a sort of 3-way traffic jam with Frank and also Impunity nipping at their heels. But they do have strength of schedule. Because they have that game against Hurricane Gaming, they still are expected to take that 6th place slot, which means that they don't have to go to the lower bracket, and they would also have side selection on the top side of the bracket for the first round, which is absolutely huge. And a big thing to remember is in our playoffs, at least this year, we are playing full 5v5. So side selection actually matters a lot more because you have 3 games. It actually matters less, excuse me. But, you know, it's still good to have to get that 3 games in versus the 2, potentially if the series does go long there. So this is what exactly...
huge win rate that's split, yeah.
Yeah, this is kind of what MFT is playing for right now, is for side selection in the first round if they get 6.
Yeah, now on the opposite side, for CFO, now they're at 10-5. They're 1 win back from J-Team. They're tied with Beyond. Every game really counts for them because you would like to get a number 3 seed just because you end up facing a weaker squad, which could very well be the likes of MFT, compared to either J-Team, Megabank Beyond Gaming, possibly if Deep Cross or even PSG Talon Drop. We'll have to see. But it's a bit of a different caliber there, and you have a much better shot of coming out of that best of 5 ahead. rather than dropping into the loser's bracket. So you definitely want to secure that now. Speaking of securing, Gemini came a little bit close to taking away 665's jungle, but no dice.
Now, I think for everyone in the top 5 that isn't PSG, their goal is to get number 2. If you get second place, that means you don't have to face PSG at least until the winter finals, which is massive. Like, if you think about PSG, their current biggest strength is their draft, and that will be amplified in best of 5s. We see Mission taunted, but he should be okay.
Yeah, 665 is going to just drive by, as well as Gemini. A little bit of lane tax coming through there, as he loves flashing that Invictus emote today.
Yeah, I'm not sure Invictus Gaming is necessarily the team that MFT should be trying to emulate.
He's bound to right-click. Hey, man, they're world champions. Gotta give them something.
That's true. That was a couple of years ago. So
it was.
Their playstyle is kind of we get the best players because we're filthy rich. I don't think MFT goes for that strategy at all. So we'll see if.
No, they're college kids, man. It's the opposite.
Yeah, so they're kind of feasting on ramen for most of their day. So I'm just wondering if that's the team that you want to be trying to emulate, or maybe they're saying that it's the Ning philosophy where they're trying to get happy times. But we should come back into the game just a little bit. We have been talking just about a lot of random stuff. But the most important thing to note right here is because of the full lane dominance that we've seen from CFO, Gemini is off to a great start. It's double scuttle. His lanes are completely safe. I like this start a lot from Gemini. He is behind in tempo because he did check out the enemy jungler position, which is exactly what you want to do if all 3 of your lanes are pushing. He found where 665 was early game. He took both scuttles, and his lanes are incredibly safe. So as a jungler, I think Gemini did a fantastic job with this early game.
Yeah, and this is allowed because, as you said, his team has been getting very far ahead in the lanes, and this is what CFO have to do. This is a team that really needs to dominate. Rest, speaking of, not quite level 6 just yet, but he is still bullying Taco out up in that top side on the Ornn, rapidly undying, keeping him in the lane for the time being, but he is zoning him off a little bit of that farm. Shun easily dodges the hook. One of those things about a Nautilus, of course, another champion with the heavy engage. A little more telegraphed, and instant flash from Shun as 665 shows bot side. But that is a good trade for MFT, as they do get a summoner for free.
I actually really like that flash from Shun. We'll talk about it later, as Gemini should find 665 here.
Well, there we go. Sonic Wave easily connects. Dishes the damage. The mid laner's coming to play as well with the smoke screen up, and he's going to walk away from it. But can Shun get away as they get to, and Gemini flashes right back in. It was all a bait. Renhouse should go down easily, and the Lee Sin gets a double kill.
Beautiful stuff from Gemini. Flashes in to save his AD carry right there. And all of this really stemmed from Shun's decision to flash away from the slow. Xayah doesn't have any escapes pre-level 6, so if you don't flash this slow, it's a very easy chase down. And what Shun was doing with that flash was that he was saying, I'm preserving HP because I know my jungle can cover later, so I can win back this trade. We'll watch this again. They go in, but the heal is still there. Gemini gets the shield and the kill down. They also pass over the double. But we are getting some wins from MFT.
Yeah, we are right now. CFO, they went a little bit low on that Ocean Dragon. However, Koala will be able to take down when it's fired back. Still, it's a 2-for-1 trade, and the Dragon steal for MFT as CFO bite off more than they can chew.
Wow, that's a huge swing in the momentum right there. They actually get the shutdown on Gemini too, over to 665. I'm sure we're going to get a replay of it, but if I had to guess, CFO just went super greedy on the Drake.
And they were. Look at Gemini's health bar. You can't get away with that. What are you doing, Gemini?
Well, that's just playing fast and loose right there. I don't have much explanation. I don't think it needs much explanation, but that was just kind of ridiculous. Their AD carry was back in base. The enemy is already coming back onto the field, and great move by 665. They just caught him red-handed. So
both junglers now have 2 quick kills picked up. That's an interesting turn of events here, and it does seem like we've got head scratchers now play so far. Level 6 starting to come in on the CFO bot side. Although they are uncontested down bot just a second till Whale and Renhao come right back into it. and we reset just a bit here as the game stands. Still CFO favored, but MFT are showing they've got teeth.
Yeah, if I look at that trade, just the bot lane trade and the 2 kills going back, I actually think it favors MFT a little bit in terms of game tempo, because they are the late game team comp. Oh, Koala going in.
Yeah, good face breaker into the showstopper. Ren now taking all the damage, and Whale, oh no, he autoed a minion there. He knew he wasn't going to win that trade.
Yeah, that's interesting. He would have more time to auto the minions anyway, but he pretty much just said, well, I'm sorry, but my support is completely dead right there. It does look like MFT will still have to wait further into the game, but as I was saying, they do have that scaling to look forward to. Their team is just such a beast in terms of objective fights. There's no way the Renekton is getting past the Ornn and the Galio here. So, you know, they do have things to still look forward to. And CFO have to be careful. They cannot drop tempo against this type of team composition.
Yeah, Rest walks up, disrespects the positioning a little bit, does get punished by Taco on that Bellows Breath. And Gemini waiting in the wings, 665 clearing the ward away. Don't think he's going to go for the 1v1 trade. Now that these junglers have a bounty on them yet.
Yeah, Russ actually wasted a lot of time starting Herald there. A bit of a weird move, considering that he didn't have backup, and now Renhal might find a catch, but that's level 6, though.
Level 6 on a Koala. He doesn't have ult, though, and he's having to walk away with the safeguard from Gemini. Mission isolated for a second, but there's no follow-up, there's no chase. Herald's still aggroed through it all. MFT are the ones controlling this side of the river.
Yeah, and we do have to remember MFT are willing to take this.
Into the Renekton, he flashes, hits the wall, slices, dices over, 665.
The Herald finishes it.
Of the Herald. Secret Agent Shelly.
The great call by MFT here to start that fight. They nearly got the 2-0 lead there, and I really like the fact that they're willing to start this even with Renhal on level 5. They have such a strong team fight composition on this phase, and even with Wen not having priority, he can still come in with the hero's entrance later if need be. Just to watch this play again, I don't like CFO's idea here of straight up challenging this. I think they don't have the composition to really do this. So they do lose another kill onto Gemini. Fortunately, they do get a trade back because of a Shelly right there, but I feel like CFO, they need to have bigger leads in their lanes before they can start that. And honestly, if they have just a little bit more patience, they should have the ability to do so. Their bot lane is pushing in, their mid lane is pushing in. You know, just take things a little bit slower. Make sure that MFT can't actually match the tempo there, and you could take it for free. So I see CFO as trying to play this tempo game a little bit too hastily, and they're running into a team fight composition from MFT, which they don't want to do.
Yeah, fast and loose seems to be the name of the game for some of these teams already locked into the top 4, top 5. We saw it with J-Team earlier, and now we're starting to see it with CFO again. They are going to go for a bit of a push down bot, maybe a dive here as Gemini comes in, but on the opposite side, Shelly being started up again. I think 665 wants a little bit of revenge, because clearly Shelly a little bit biased for the Flying Oyster this game.
Definitely has been. He has to make sure that Shelly is actually just a impartial observer rather than someone that is actively rooting for oysters. I guess they are all seaside creatures, so it does make kind of sense.
Is that what happens when Rift Herald dies? It just kind of observes on the map. It's got like a long respawn timer and just sort of watches the action.
That might be what the eye is for. So
that's the answer. I think you're right. That's the answer. All right, here's a dive down on top side. 665 going to crush that eye quickly as Rest is caught between Ornn and Graves. Dominus almost exhausted here. Teleport coming in, but I think he is a dead man. Nicely played out there as the teleport finishes. Mission trying to isolate them and get a quick double, but they split. Well played
This
here.
could be another dive.
I think so. Mission keeps running the wrong way. Shockwave does pull in 2. Here comes Wen. Mission flashes away, but he's out of damage. And he is going to walk it out, but man, MFT playing that well.
Very well done on that top side there. Critically, bot side as well, I think deserves a lot of praise. Whale was able to clear the wave despite being down a mythic item. So that was huge. You can see CFO, they shifted 4 members into the bot lane. They found that there was no play. MFT instantly responded to top. Renhao does have to be a little bit careful, but again, Whale is able to clear this wave again and again. Really nicely done with the E to make sure that the cross-map play can happen for the rest of the team. And this is a matchup I was talking about. Like, Renekton, you think he's a lane bully, but against someone like Ornn, he actually still dies quite easily. The Dominus gives you a lot of extra HP, and Ornn is a champion that just chunks through HP bars, raw HP bars quite nicely. Mission very lucky to get away there from the heroic entrance from when in the meantime. But we are starting to see some cracks here. Like, I feel like top lane Renekton's just not going to be very useful throughout this entire game. While in the meantime, Shun still expanding that lead.
Yeah, should be the first brick here as Rest is chased away. This Renekton's going to be a little bit of a non-factor as the game goes a little bit lower, and they look for the 2v1 into the Dominus, and maybe he gets those kills. 665 tanked a lot of tower shots on that. That's going to be the end of that push. At the same time, though, bot lane, Shun and Koala do finish off the bot tower. They have zoned Whale away. And MFT, you know, they have good coordination. This is one thing you can't take away from this squad. They came into the PCS deliberately wanted to stay together as a roster out of their university's team. And, you know, we see them able to pull things off that rookie squads usually can't as a result.
I'm just going to say it. CFO, I think them losing to J-Team, losing to Beyond Gaming, I can sort of understand. You know, those are pro teams that have a lot of experience. If they lose to MFT, I will actually lose my mind because MFT are complete rookies compared to what CFO have. They are paying a visit onto Taco right here. Ooh, nice bounce house. Okay,
Call the Forge God may just get off, and he thought he might be able to take down Gemini with him, but a well-executed dive from CFO, and Rest says, see, that's how it feels.
Yeah, I feel like if you were Taco there, you might as well try to clear the wave into the top side. There's no way you're actually getting out of that one alive. But CFO do have to be careful about the hex stacks here. There could be a potential more members, or they could just run into MFT in that situation. A good find for them there. 3,000 gold up. I still feel like this is relatively okay for MFT, though. They had match at least on most of the mythic items. And they are just waiting, I think, for kind of the Drake fights to take over here, with the Hextech Drake being again coming in from game 2.
2 for 2 on the Hex Gates today. This is going to be interesting. As MFT, yeah, that'll really help them get into these objective fights a lot faster. Obviously, it helps CFO just as much, but when we consider what these teams want to do, now CFO are going to group up quickly here. It's still a minute until the dragon spawns as they try to take as much jungle away from their opposition as possible. Mission stealing away that blue buff with a little help from Gemini as they'll set up vision. What can MFT do? They tried to show force in the mid lane, but not able to find a push on that tower.
And here comes the real big fight here. The big question is, how is Taco going to join? And what it seems like right now is Taco's actually making the call to just stay top and push this one in. So CFO are likely just going to take this Drake uncontested. It's a bit of a weird call in my eyes. Taco with the extra gold is not really going to change the calculus so much into the bottom side. And now Shun, again, giving a huge punish to Whale.
Yeah, unfortunately, Whale getting zoned out of that one means that it's going to be hard to defend. And Renhao, they want to counter-engage when thinking on that Predator, but this is going to be Dragon live, and Taco kind of moved halfway for it, but they back up. There's nothing they can trade for here. Try to get pressure in the mid, maybe, but Koala's still there defending. And it seems like CFO just out-rotate their opposition.
Yeah, and we have to remember that there is still a TP on the Renekton as well. So if there is a fight that MFT try to catch her, it won't be a 5v4. It still will be a 5v5. So I just think the positioning from MFT was far better there. If you're Taco and you don't have a TP in that situation, you actually have to match the Renekton. I feel like getting that top lane tower, even though it was like 300 local gold, they do give over the Drake, which is kind of what they want to push. They want to pull CFO into those Drake fights, and they also lose a huge chunk of tower HP mid lane. So overall, I don't think it was actually that much worth it for 665 to actually take down the top tower. They don't benefit from having elongated lanes.
But the Herald priority continues here as they try to get this one. However, it does seem like CFO want this fight, and Whale and Renhow have kind of backed away from this. They're trying to pull Shelly out and teleport. Maybe it's all a bait for the long fight, but this is a delicate dance as they crush the eye. 665 walks away. Man, they just want to zone him off. Here comes the Call the Forge God, I should say. And it completely whiffs, except Koala gets bursted down to 0, and they're gonna find the Renekton as well. Even in the Dominus, the Flash, they try to chase him away. No, he slices and dices. And that's going to be the end of that. A 1 kill and a bit of, I'm going to use your favorite phrase, Clement, a bit of a head scratcher on CFO's engage there.
Yeah, I think what Koala, if he was able to, although we still have more fights, so.
Okay, they really wanted that blue buff, but now we're seeing all sort of questionable decisions. Teleports keep going. This fight is not ended, and Wen is down. What is happening?
I think both teams got kind of antsy right there. You know, Koala just didn't press any buttons. He had Flash, he had Ultimate, he had Facebreaker. He chose to use nothing. Just simply died. So, kind of a weird first take there, but CFO get a massive punish on the blue buff right afterwards. There was really no need for MFT to over-aggress there, especially when their bot lane was moving away from the scene already. So, calculated by CFO, maybe?
I don't know. That's some fuzzy math, man. Big swing, though, for the Flying Oyster right now as they start stacking in more bank. And here is the counter engage as the jungle was coming through. 665 secures the red. But yeah, end result is Herald secured, but MFT lose a lot of people at the end of the day. Let's see if they can make that Herald pop worth it, as they did take a little bit of time to get it. And yeah, game's pace has been a little bit weird.
Very interesting. While we saw Gemini and 665 trading bounties, who's been profiting from all of this has been Shun. He's already 3-0-2 right now. He's been fed free kills all over the map. And I feel like this is something that MFT do need to think about. He has a very early Lord Dominic's regard against the Nautilus, the Galio, and the Ornn. So this could change the calculus significantly. CFO might not be that afraid to take a front-to-back team fight if they can melt through Daco.
Yeah, and they do have some engage tools, right? I mean, you're really going to rely on Koala here to come in with the showstopper, and he's still deceptively tanky enough. I mean, you get a lot of that shield off of the Haymaker, so it's always possible that they feel confident enough to do it. Gemini actually sniffing as he sees Renhow there, and it is going to be a fair bit of map controlled by CFO. They'd like to knock down this last outer turret here in the top side, and just gonna let the minions crash. 665, Wen and Whale going to be in the mid, but they've barely been able to tickle that tower.
Yeah, so what CFO are looking for, whenever there's a 4-man like this and Ornn isn't there, I expect them to just full-on engage. They have a massive gold lead, and they can cut through these non-frontliners super easily. Their only real threat is the 5v5 with Taco present. So I feel like MFT have to be very, very careful. I do like what they're doing right here, but I would feel a lot more comfortable if they have a little bit more warding presence on the left side. You can see because they don't have a paint for that ward, they will just drop Wen as a mobile ward there. Make sure no one can flank them. And now they have Taco, they can play a little bit more aggressively, but they really can't afford to split up as 4, in my opinion. Gemini is a little too good on the Lee Sin, and they should expect to be caught out.
Yeah, CFO, after defending, will be able to back away from here. Whale staying relatively safe just on the edge. But this next dragon comes up in 10 seconds. Neither of these teams want to give up a player before it happens. Would establish a pretty big Drake stack here for Flying Oyster. Gemini spotted out by the ward as he throws down control. Dragon's live. 665 starts it. Here they go through safety. Renhow a little forward. He does engage. Koala's actually managed to catch him. But they are going to be able to back away from this. The question is, can they secure it? Rest and Gemini around the side. Always a possible Lee Sin steal here. And they are going to turn to the fight immediately. They do find the Xayah into the Featherstorm. Shun shuts down Renhow, but Taco takes rest out of this one, and Gemini is going to need to beat feet to get back to this one for the steal. Tries for it on the Sonic Wave, but MFT will even up the Drake stack on that fight.
That was insane from Renhao. How does he find Xayah in the middle of 4 members? Sure, he pays with his life, but that was totally worth it to burn all the summoners from Shin, burn his flash, his heal, get his ultimate, and also get a Hex Drake there. We have to remember, CFO are actually coming into this fight with a strong gold lead. Let's watch this beautiful play from Renhao again. Just finds Shin out of nowhere, followed directly up into the ultimate. You can see that CFO are trying to flank with Rest. He dies as he tries to cover the ramp, and they get the Drake right there. I have to say, MFT with a huge win.
Yeah. You don't actually have to kill the Xayah. You just have to make sure she can't keep fighting. And that's massive right now. MFT, talk about Renhao dying for the cause, and a really good setup. It allows Whale to aggressively jump forward, make that play. He's going to start evening out a little bit more in items after that Phantom Dancer completes. And yeah, 23.5 minutes into this one, MFT, they're equalized on Drakes. We won't have an easy stack on this, and remember, this is the team that scales more comfortably into late game.
Yeah, if you think about the damage distribution, just look at the Ornn. I think even with the Lord Dominic's regard, he's just not dying at this point. He's triple defensive items. Like, Orianna's not going to kill him anytime soon. So, as we go into late game, these fights are going to look more and more dire, and MFT can play ever so aggressively with their front line because they just can't die at this point. So they can push position super easily. And I feel like when you are looking at the late game and a lot of these objective fight situations, it usually is a 5v5 in very close quarters around these ramps where you have to go through an enemy front line. So I do want to see how CFO adapt to this. And one of the ways they could do that is with mission side lane split pushing. It's not something we see a lot, but Orianna, I would say against this team comp that isn't all that mobile, I would say, does have a chance to kind of pull apart the composition from MFT. And remember, CFO's win condition is fight when MFT are 4. Fight when Taco is not there.
So far, seems to be them hitting the go button to try and defend on their towers. Only one has been found by MFT, but they do have more of the map control at the moment. Ooh, Koala deep in enemy territory there for a second, but nobody was there to try and catch him. You can see Taco kind of prevented from rejoining his team. And he can be a threat on the side lanes, but he wants to be with the squad when possible. Teleport advantage, though, in favor of MFT if they want to bring Taco back into this one. Rest, of course, can match, but Mission cannot. Into the mid lane, Shun leading the charge. Might be able to knock that tower down. Winds of War aren't doing a whole lot here. I have to say, Wen's been having a bit of a harder time. Here comes the Call of the Forge God. Shun is going to spend his Feather Storm. And Taco gets a knock off the taunt on Koala. And that's a big shutdown. 665 finding the final shot, but unfortunately, there's enough left in the tank here for CFO to keep it going. 1, 2, 3, traded for 1. Make that 2. Rest is still a big gator. And he says to MFT, see you later.
Yeah, great play coming in there by CFO to salvage the situation. I feel like MFT actually overcommitted on the kill onto Xayah. The rest of the team didn't need to go in and pack damage. Actually, 665 could have finished off that kill by himself. So I think Wen and Whale actually unnecessarily put themselves in way too much harm there. And they end up in a situation where 665 has to go 1v4 to secure the Baron. Props to him, he does complete it.
Single-handedly chase him off. Let's see this again, because it's a really nice setup from Taco to try and pincer Shun, forces the ultimate. But you're right, they go really deep here.
Wen doesn't need to flash this at all. I don't see the purpose of Wen and Renhao flashing in for that. It was completely unnecessary. 665 could have just finished off the kill, and essentially what their flashes did was they gave Mission a massive shockwave. That's all. Yeah. Like, they didn't even get damage off. So they really need to trust in 665 a little bit more and not funnel themselves so hard against a Renekton and Mission and Orianna. Like,
I will say, Whale has not looked all that, or excuse me, Wen has not looked all that great this game. His Galio he's kind of been hard forcing it a little bit. We've seen a couple of combos, but he's not always been necessary. Like, I don't know. He's got a little too deep sometimes, and yeah, it's not been as impressive.
in Chinese, we call this having an iron head. So you basically try to just smash your head against a brick wall over and over again until it works. 665 also demonstrating that right there as he gets caught on the Baron Pit wall. But fortunately enough, the Scryer Bloom doesn't catch that, so it doesn't count.
Yeah, of course. Nobody saw it. It's okay. So, as we even out just a little bit, as it stands, CFO at 28 minutes still have a decent gold lead, just about 5,000, but they importantly also have a dragon advantage in the aftermath of that. They were able to secure another Hextech Drake, so they are on soul points. There have been a lot of dragons for 28 minutes on the map. Teams are really focusing on that objective.
And this is going to be absolutely massive here. CFO do have a huge incentive to actually just walk in to MFT, and I feel like MFT are not going to let go of this opportunity either to full-on punish them. Once again, all MFT have to be careful of is just to make sure their front line doesn't bunch up like they did the last time. Their front line, if they play front to back, even with how fed Shin is, MFT should still win, even with the 5,000 gold deficit. Like, that's how crazy some of these scaling compositions can be. So, don't do anything crazy. Keep your distance. Make sure that you're always there for your backline to just dish out damage and just take things slowly. I feel like MFT definitely still have some game to play.
They certainly do, but they have been trying for quite a while to crack this mid lane, have been unable to do it. As Rest stays on the bottom, no one has contested him here. So he kind of gets free farm, and he's going to be able to just secure this and slice and dice his way out. So while the Renekton, in a sense, has fallen off a bit, with Hullbreaker, he can still be a deadly threat on the side lane for a good chunk of this game.
No nerf on the Hullbreaker for melee champions here, and this has been a very long wait for Taco and 665. They've been sitting in that brush for 2 waves at this point.
Rest is right back on bot.
Shin's just too smart to be caught out like that. Now Ren Hao's in trouble.
Yeah, Sonic Wave is going to pull himself to safety, but guys, you're losing bot lane. This Renekton's just absolutely shredding what you've got here. They're going to go ahead and send the Galio to try and defend. But we're still watching if this fight happens here. Rest is out because Taco showed up as well, so they have a numbers disadvantage in the mid lane. Ren Hao's got... What's going on here? MFT? Man, they're just collapsing.
MFT, I just think that they were way too opportunistic with this play. It's 2 minutes until the next Drake. CFO are under no pressure to come out and fight or face check. Like, they're never going to check the right side front. They will never do that. So MFT, I feel like they just pulled some collegiate strategy where teams kind of wander around and hope that it would work on CFO. They should have just stayed split, wait for the Drake to come up.
Yeah, 665 flashes very early into the pit, and they try to zone him off. It's going to get secured, and so is his life here as MFT will try to remove Baron from at least 1 or 2. Shun goes into stasis, but you see, he's brought away from the carries, courtesy of Koala. Shun lives, but the same cannot be said from Meta Falcon team when dropping Taco soon to follow. They may have lost mission, but that is about it. Koala's still going to hang into this one as he gets a smash to the face. And with 4 members strong, it's a Baron push topside.
I felt so close in that fight. MFT, they get the close down, they nearly get the Baron steal, but at the end, Shun stays alive, and if you can't kill him, he will chew through your entire team. So remember at the start of the fight, this is essentially a 4v3 situation. Whale comes in super late, does go down, take a lot of damage onto Shun, but this is so well done on the side of Shun. He takes the challenge straight up against the Tristana, drops her low, and then Koala is able to finish off the kill with the 80 carry gone. No more threat onto the back line, and we just have a good cleanup coming in from Shin. Ren Hao again gets caught out.
Yeah, X-Gate's just really doing some work here for CFO as Ren Hao tries to dash to safety. Now 665, caught isolated from the pack. In goes the Shield of Duran for when they're going to turn this one. Rest, maybe going to fall, but no, a massive shockwave there, allowing Shun to pick up a double kill. Taco Whale 665, they want another fight here. They're going to get mission on the knockup, but Shun's still threatening. It's a 3v4. MFT really playing with fire on this one, despite the fact that CFO don't have scaling on their side. They certainly have the gold items and the damage, and Shun deletes Whale by sticking him full of feathers. Not a lot he can do here. Koala, Hex Flash is over, Showstopper, and I think the show might be over soon. Rest takes another one. Taco soon to fall after the dash. That's the ace, and they're in the base.
Oh, such a close game from MFT. They held on for a long time, but unfortunately, they didn't have the patience to execute this composition the whole way through. CFO will get some sweet revenge right here for their earlier losses. Not against MFT necessarily, but for their Week 4 and Week 5. And what item is Rest going to buy? That's the big question. He finishes the game with the Medjais. I'm always very curious on what Rest does. When he goes back to base like that, it's usually some tears. I've seen the 6-tier build, but this time going for the Medjais and some big smiles.
How to make the stats people hate you. But Rest definitely having a great time this time around, and the rest of his team can be very happy and secure in their victory. Definitely allowed MFT to make some suboptimal plays, I think, and despite a few engages that maybe didn't look quite so good for them, they were able to out-rotate around the map and just lead MFT on a bit of a wild goose chase, knowing when they had the opportunities to fight, knowing when they could keep a stiff arm. I don't think they lost that mid-tower, by the way, the entire game. And this is why CFO are one of our top squads here, making a statement to return to form and try to secure that number 3 playoff seat.
Yeah, this game felt very unfortunate for MFT because they had all of the cards aligned. Their Ornn was massive. The damage coming in from Shun was honestly not that relevant against someone like the Ornn, but they just went over aggressive, I think 3 times, very critically. The first time was when we saw them go for the blue buff. That was just kind of unnecessary. We will catch a glimpse of what happened in the final play. Rest just goes in 1v2. It's so hard to calculate the incoming members with the Hex Gate. He gets help on the rest of the team. It looks somewhat good for MFT at the start here because they are able to just finish off Gemini at the start of the fight, so there is a chance of them winning. But Mission then comes in and they can't escape the shockwave afterwards. So MFT do fall there. I think we might catch a glimpse all the way into Shin and his one-shot burst of Whale. Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing that again.
Maybe we'll get the time for it. This is just like a series of bait and switches, I think, at the end. Yeah, unfortunately, we don't get to see that last one again. But you're right, Clement. I mean, the game at this point, it was already going to be very difficult to come back into, even with the scaling on the side of MFT. But you called it. They just made too many mistakes in a row. Like, they had kept it very close, but it kind of felt like they banged their head against the wall a few too many times, right? And just started doing the same thing over again.
Yeah, the blue buff was not very good. The fight where you saw the entire front line flash forward to Shun put 0 damage on him. And 665 just killed him anyway. Like, why were you guys flashing? If you trade 665 for AD carry, you win that fight hands down. So that was kind of unnecessary. And then we saw the bait around Drake Pit when there were still 2 minutes and 30 seconds up for Drake Soul. There's just no chance that CFO would ever face check that. It was just a very bizarre kind of game coming in, and then Renhao just gets caught in no man's land and dies twice in a row. So we do see MFT. I feel like this was a composition where it had some picks that they were familiar with, but the team did not operate the way that they usually play. They do not usually play these front-to-back game compositions. They have to wait for macro decisions. They usually play catch comps, which is like, if you're Renekton and Diana, then you naturally have priority and you just run at them. So I feel like we see a team where there are good coaching ideas. I love the draft. Hands down, I think if you give this draft to any of the top 5 teams, then CFO would have lost. I don't have any doubt in that whatsoever. But the way they pilot it does show a lot of inexperience still.
Yeah, and this is, of course, a rookie squad. I think it is fair to say that they have some growing pains to work their way through, and despite it, they still kept the game pretty close for about 20 minutes before it started to go a little bit out of hand at that 25-minute mark. And I think it's safe to say Shun is definitely showing up. I mean, talk about the galaxy brain level decision-making. He burns his flash early just to bait out MFT in the river in that level, I want to say 4 or 5, and or actually 6. I think he might have had Featherstorm at that point. Overall, CFO definitely, it feels like a bit of an upgrade because it just jives with what this squad wants to do, which is early pressure.
It definitely is. When you have 2 lane doing a full pressure press, the only thing better is to have 3 lanes that can play at the same degree and out pressure. And Honestly, the early game from CFO was really beautiful. What they did was, I think there's so many things to note on their first rotation. Like the way they played when they had all 3 lanes pushing, and Gemini just going to check the jungler, taking double scuttle, like skipping camps to take double scuttle, was so critical. And then Shin, well-deserved MVP. The flash early on really showcases an understanding of macro play. I don't think it was an emergency flash. I think what he was thinking was like, I'm sitting at an item lead here. If I flash away and my jungle then rotates to the bottom side, I can continue to push and pressure without the flash. All I need to do is conserve HP. So it really showcases something that is very rare among rookie players, which is an ability to think about the macro game and how to play according to their macro strategy.
Yeah, we're really seeing why he was favored to come in to replace Atlan here, and no knock against Atlan. He has been showing impressive performances throughout the split, but I do seem to think right now Shun is the guy going forward for CFO and into the playoffs. It does change how teams are going to look at this squad and what is the plan of attack against Flying Oyster. It seems like it's going to be hard to find winning lanes against this squad for sure, and some really, really good individual decision-making, and of course this time around, just finding the dominant fights when the team against them made a mistake. So, well earned for CFO. They are making a strong play here, Clement, to try and get that 3rd seed. Crazier things could even happen. I mean, anything's up for grabs at this point, but it is going to be a whole lot more games before we get to find that. And we've got ourselves a little break. When we return, Frankie Sports facing off against Deep Cross.